Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kima. I'll get started with the PowerPoint. So what exactly is peer support? Peer support is a form of assistance where individuals with a shared condition or experience help each other. It can involve one-on-one sessions or small group meetings, either face-to-face or electronically. Who is a veteran peer mentor? A veteran peer mentor is a trained individual with military experience who helps veterans through life transitions. Why is a peer mentor helpful for veterans? Peer mentors help veterans establish goals, recognize their strengths, and identify the veteran's need for more support. A veteran peer mentor isn't a sponsor. They do not help veterans during their recovery or sponsor veterans during their recovery. They are not a therapist. A peer support specialist does not provide therapy. They are not a nurse or doctor. Peer support specialists will not diagnose or treat illnesses. While they can be a close friend, they are not usually close friends. Friends can sometimes enable detrimental behavior. The goal is to help assist with transitions, not lose objectivity in helping the veteran. They are also not a clergy person. They are allowed to be a clergy person. However, it is not the responsibility of a peer mentor to preach to their veteran. Peer support specialists can help veterans deal with stressors that may debilitate their mental health. Please remember that they do not diagnose or treat mental illness. Some of the things that they can help out with are moral injury, PTSD, suicide prevention, or relationship issues. Peer support specialists can also help veterans navigate benefits offered by the Veteran Affairs Administration. Some of these benefits could be education-related, healthcare, disability, or housing. The next couple of slides will go over some peer support opportunities that are offered in our community. Veterans Path to Hope is located in Crystal Lake, and they are a nonprofit dedicated to serving veterans and their families. Some of their programs include New Horizons Transitional Living in Hebron, Illinois, Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program, Supportive Services for Veteran Families, Veterans Community Action Team. They have a drop-in resource center in Crystal Lake, including a food pantry, Legacy Corps' caregiver support for veterans and military families, counseling service, outdoors program, and they also have a gaming program. Another agency located in McHenry County is New Life Ministry and Outreach. They are dedicated to supporting the transition of our nation's military service members to their new life as a veteran. Every second and fourth Friday, they host art expressions at Willow Creek Community Church, and it's open to veterans and their families. I also have Chris Boston, who is with New Life Ministry here on this training, and we'll be asking her a few questions after the PowerPoint. NAMI Homefront. It is a free virtual six-session educational program for family members, caregivers, and close friends of military service members or veterans living with a mental health condition. This new program will begin September 25th, 2025 and end November 6th, 2025. And it will be on Zoom. Okay, so that is the end of the presentation. I am from the Veterans Assistance Commission. Our address is 667 Ware Road in Woodstock, and our phone number is 847-334-4229. I'm going to ask that Chris unmutes herself for the questions. Okay. Chris, what is one thing you wish you understood more about the military as the mom of a service member or veteran?
That one's kind of tricky because I was very involved as a military mom. Um, I went to all the parent groups that the military offered. Um, I volunteered. I was just very involved. My son was in the DEP program before he joined the military, and I even volunteered with the recruiter's office at that time.
Okay,
So I I'm like knowledge is power. So it's like the more we know, the more we can overcome and conquer different circumstances. And so this was a new thing. He was our first one. My father-in-law was in the military, but he was our first son to join the military. And so I just wanted to educate myself on that
good,
new
good.
adventure he was on.
And so you mentioned that, when he was first joining the military, you were educating yourself by volunteering. Um, so what have you been doing more recently in order to provide stability and understanding to the veteran community?
Yeah, so uh, my son served from 2012 to 2016, and he was deployed two times. He was in the Marine Corps. And we went through all the training that he could experience PTSD when he got out. And so I looked for those signs when he got out. But his journey didn't start with that, really, that we were involved in until several years afterward. Um, and because of the journey that we went on with my son and I, that we went on uh, in his, I guess, recovery is what you would say. Um, it, it just put a heart for um, with me for all the veterans that are going through similar circumstances, and so then that's why we started the new organization.
Okay, awesome. Um, what has been difficult to communicate to family and friends about your son's military experience? And I'll also open it up to say more than family and friends. What about the community?
So my son was infantry, and so we had a really close family parent group within the Marine Corps. And so all of our boys, they went off and, you know, they had their group that they were going in. All the parents, we were able to talk about things and go, hey, this is what's going on. And we'd get together on the homecomings and obviously when they went to be deployed. So we'd get together and we'd talk to each other on Facebook. And um gosh, I when I was in, my son was the first one who had a birthday. So I had started Operation Birthday Card. So when the boys were deployed in our group there, they all got birthday cards. So, like I said, I was very involved with supporting him in this journey. Um, when he got out, that was a different story because then the parent group didn't communicate as much. And some of them some of the sons were still in, some of them were home, so everybody was kind of like in different places. And then when my son had reached out to me, kind of sharing what was going on, it was like, okay, how come nobody else is talking about this? So
Right.
I just pretty much private messaged several of the moms in the group, and they're like, oh yeah, my son's going through that too. Oh yeah, my son's going through that too. So I quickly found out that it's like when they were in, we all had the community, but then when they were out, even the parents didn't have that community anymore, that we didn't talk about who's doing what to help.
It sounds like it might be beneficial for families and caregivers also to have some form of peer support um, program, or like a small group, or something of that sort, where you guys can speak with each other about uh, your family members.
Yes, yeah. So, and what happened in my case, I actually had a friend that her son was dealing with his own, and I'll just say PTSD issue. He did not go into the military. He had gone off to college, but somehow both of our sons were on this similar journey together. And so we were able to get together every week, and we just prayer walked, is what we called it. And we would just walk to help get all of our anxiety out, and we were able to talk to one another and and process things, because it's not something that other people can really understand. What I tell people now, if they're like, yeah, they're going through this, I don't really understand it, I kind of explain it as it's like a stick of dynamite that
Mhm.
can go off at any time. And I can joke about it now, but my son and it was like the sponge, the kitchen sink sponge would set him off because I would put the sponge the wrong way in the sink.
Mhm.
And it somehow triggered him. And and you think I would have learned after the first time, don't put the sponge that way in the sink, but of course I did it. So it was beneficial for me to have uh, that other friend to walk through the process with, and we were able to encourage one another. And some days would be good, that would be like, oh yeah, we've got this progress, and then other days we'd be in tears. And her son was going to counseling and getting help, and my son was not. And so it, it's an interesting journey because everybody's different. And, you know, it, it's not like there's a set answer of, oh, do this and then this happens, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, for my veteran, I had to learn that I could not fix him because it wasn't a problem that needed to be fixed. He just needed to process things. I mean, he was a good soldier, and that's why he was experiencing the things that he was experiencing. And I say soldier just because people can understand the word soldier. I know a Marine is not a soldier. Um, but they carry a lot on their shoulders, because they lost so many friends over there, and they have the survivor guilt, and they have questions, why, and it's not like we can answer those questions. Pretty much all we can do is be there for them, listen to them, and support them in what they're going through.
Yes. I think you pretty much answered my last question too. Do you have any advice for other family members or caregivers of veterans?
Uh,
Um,
Definitely for, I guess for family members, for sure, reach out and get some help. Because it could be like in my case, I was saying things that were uh kind of like shutting him down, that it was blocking the communication. And so I had to learn how to word things differently to open the doors to communication.
okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. Now we'll get started with asking Josh some questions. Josh is a peer support specialist from Veterans Path to Hope. He runs the outdoors program and also the gaming program at Veterans Path to Hope. Um, Josh, are you ready to answer some questions?
I am. So for the outdoors program, I am a participant. So I
Okay.
help coordinate. I do program coordination for it. Ryan Jacobson is actually the program manager of the outdoors.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't. I'm ready to answer any the questions that you would like to start with.
Okay. So, how did you become veteran peer support certified?
So I went through DBSA, Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, to get my CRSS um, a certification from them, and then I also went through the state to provide them with the information, and still working on I'm waiting on my state certification CRSS. But I went through DBSA, and that was after doing some other training with Ryan Dowd training, and also doing mental health first aid training.
Okay. And what exactly made you want to become a peer support specialist?
So I became a peer support specialist based off of my own experiences. It took me relatively excuse me, approximately a decade to readjust to life outside of the military. Um, Multiple different jobs, substance abuse, some mental health issues, some barriers that I face, and then just unresolved trauma has really prevented me from being able to have a fulfilling life. And so I found that I like advocating for veterans, me being a veteran. And I found this organization, Veterans Path to Hope, came in and they had a job opening for a peer support specialist. And I figured I'd do that and see where that led me. And now I'm a peer support specialist and a case manager for Staff Sergeant Fox Suicide Prevention Program.
Awesome. Um, how do you keep track of your peers?
I do weekly, either in call, text message, or in person meetups, and just meet with them, see if there's anything that needs any if they need any help with. If I have veterans that like to meet on a weekly basis, so we can go over goals and ideas for the week. I also participate in a lot of the events that we have going on in our community. So we do a Wednesday dinner. A lot of the veterans that I work with go to the Wednesday dinner. We do a gaming event. A lot of the veterans I work with go out to the e-gaming event, and we do a weekly hike on Fridays that some of my veterans go out to that as well. So it's consistency and just doing buddy checks.
Okay. Um, I feel like this question might be a little redundant, but what is a typical peer relationship like for you from like the first interaction?
The typical interaction, it's really case by case. I got some veterans that are in need of housing because they're homeless, and I have other veterans that are in need of just having that peer to peer interaction. So it really determines on the barriers that the veteran has and the barriers that that veteran faces. So, but immediately I always start with my an introduction. I tell that individual who I am. I'm very adamant on sticking to what I can help with. I don't try to promise the veterans anything that I can't do. I don't try to overexert by saying, "Oh yeah, I can do this, this, and this," and then if you're not able to follow through with that, it could be detrimental to that relationship. So, um, setting ground rules and barriers and boundaries in place first that both you and the veteran can work with, and just being upfront and honest.
Okay. And then lastly, do you have any advice for other family members or caregivers of veterans?
Yeah, for family and caregivers, I would definitely say be patient and tolerant. Emotional regulation was not very well practiced in the military. We're kind of, you know, we're the training is designed to get maximum effort or maximum capabilities out of a veteran in a military standpoint. So, emotional regulation is not one of those things that are needed on a battlefield per se. Well, especially not in a citizen or a society setting. So, definitely patience. Um, we're used to very high demanding, high stress environments, and so with that comes a lot of different barriers, PTSD being one of them. um, for my own family, I got three children and a wife, and they probably see the most of the residuals of being in the military. The knife hands, the talking very sternly, um, but they've been very patient with me, and yeah. So I would say just patience, tolerance, and know that that individual is probably going through a struggle that's unlike anyone else's struggle. Given that only 6% of the society has actually served the military, it's a very unique very unique position. And for anybody that wants to get into peer support, this is definitely something. It takes a lot out of you. Sometimes it's very energy draining. At times, it can be very emotional, um, and you gotta be prepared for that. You can't you don't want to jump into something blindly and be like, oh, I can do this, and it can be very daunting, or I don't want to say daunting, very energy draining. So definitely self-care is very important in this position, and definitely having that backup of somebody like a supervisor that you speak with, and me preferably, I use a counselor as well. So I do supervision and counseling just to maintain my own level of good healthy coping skills.
Okay. Well, thank you both, Josh and Chris, so much for being here to answer my questions. I really appreciate it. Um,
Thank you for having me.